Hello everyone out there. You are welcome to this interesting and educative platform, Literature of 247. This platform is a free online literature class where literature texts are reviewed. This video is about an interesting novel titled Lekki Headmaster, written by Kabir Alabi Garba. Lekki Headmaster is JAMB 2025 approved text. Earlier on this platform, I have discussed the plot summary of this novel as well as chapters 1 to 3. So if you need the link to those videos, just send your request to the comment section and it will be attended to. The link will be sent to you. And let me tell you that all these videos are linked together. Just make sure you watch one to the end and the next video pops up. So this is chapter 4 of Lekki Headmaster. Let's go into the classroom. You're welcome to the classroom. In the last chapter, Lekki Headmaster, that is Mr. Bepo, after his resolve to travel out of the country, Mr. Adewale is gathering experiences about the people abroad. That's what we discussed in chapter 3. So this is chapter 4, titled A Case of Visa Denied. And at the end of this video, I have about 18 likely JAMB questions drawn from this chapter. So make sure you watch the video to the end so that you go through the question, and at the end of the video you'll be able to provide answers to this question from this chapter. A case of visa denied. Bepo is in his room at Adeniyi Jones, Ikeja, Lagos, when he receives a call from Mrs. Ignatius, the parent of a student, just as he's about to say his night prayers. He was not okay with the overly cordial relationship that Mrs. Ignatius was extending towards him. He always related to his students and staff with humor and compassion, but he did not appreciate being taken for granted, just like Mrs. Ignatius was doing. At 6 feet tall, with bulging eyeballs and a voice that needed no loudspeaker, Bepo often told his students he was born to be a principal. So this paragraph describes the physical appearance of Mr. Bepo. He prided himself on his ability to detect exam malpractice in any hall he walked into. His features were striking. His skin, the peculiar yellow shade of the Salama hand, that is a yellow hand, a detail he often shared with students, joking that even the hands refused to bite him on the farm. He also narrated to the students how Salama yellow hands couldn't bite him on the farm because of his color. Mrs. Ignatius, however, was not calling about school matters. Her husband, Mr. Ignatius, a manager at an oil firm, had been planning to japa with their family and escape from a system where the children of those who studied abroad returned to dominate leadership positions. The financial advantage was undeniable. Earning in dollars and pounds means sending home at least $1,000 monthly, equivalent to over £1 million at the current exchange rate. Excited by the prospect, Mrs. Ignatius had quit her clerical job and started learning tailoring and hairdressing, imagining the lucrative possibilities abroad, where braiding alone could earn her $100 per client. Mrs. Ignatius had quit her job as a clerical officer, while her husband had closed up his clearing and forwarding side business as they prepared to relocate when something terrible happened. Let's see what happens to them. While processing their visa, a DNA test revealed that Mr. Ibe is not the father of one of their 3 children, Fifo, a 15-year-old SSS2 girl at Stardom. This is the subject of Mrs. Ignatius' late-night call. Her husband had told them, Mrs. Ignatius and Vivo, to leave the house. That is, he's sending them out of the house. He was not sure how to respond to this situation. He was aware of the fact that some of these rich parents can be selfish and nasty. He's reminded of an incident that led to the sacking of Mr. Ayesoro, who was the government teacher, that is, in Stardom schools. One of his students, Bibi, had a dream about the government teacher. Bibi told her mother, Mrs. Ladele, that the government teacher appeared to her in her dream with his tribal mark. His tribal marks are so deep and prominent that the students nicknamed him Mr. Owala, a derogatory Yoruba name for a person with wide facial marks. Every time Bibi saw Mr. Ayesoro, she became scared. The dreams continued until Mrs. Ladede goes to the school to file a complaint. Worried that they would lose Bibi and her siblings to another school, the management transferred Mr. Ayesoro to Stardom Hub, the property wing of Stardom Group of Companies. So that is chapter 4 of Lekki Headmaster. Now these are the likely JAMB questions drawn from this chapter. 1. Where does Mr. Bepo live? Where does Mr. Bepo live? 2. Who is Mrs. Ignatius? Who is Mrs. Ignatius? 3. How tall is Mr. Bepo? How tall is Mr. Bepo? 4. What is the color of the skin of Mr. Bepo? What is the color of the skin of Mr. Bepo? 5. Where does Mr. Ignatius work? Where does Mr. Ignatius work? 6. What is the primary motives of Mr. Ignatius for relocating? What is the primary motives of Mr. Ignatius for relocating? 7. What is Mrs. Ignatius' job? What is Mrs. Ignatius' job? 8. What did Mrs. Ignatius learn after quitting her job? What did Mrs. Ignatius learn after quitting her job? 9. How much could bleeding hen per head abroad? How much could bleeding hen per head abroad? 10. What is the side business of Mr. Ignatius? What is the side business of Mr. Ignatius? 11. What happened while processing their visa? What happened while processing their visa? That is Mr. and Mrs. Ignatius. 12. What class is Vivo in Stardom schools? What class is Vivo in Stardom schools? 13. What is the main subject of Mrs. Ignatius' call to Mr. Bepo? What is the main subject of Mrs. Ignatius' calls to Mr. Bepo? 14. What subject does Mr. Ayesoro teach? 14. What subject does Mr. Ayesoro teach? 15. What scares Bibi about Mr. Ayesoro? What scares Bibi about Mr. Ayesoro? 16. What is the nickname given to Mr. Ayesoro? What is the nickname given to Mr. Ayesoro? 17. Who is Mrs. Ladele? Who is Mrs. Ladele? 18. Where was Mr. Ayesoro later transferred to? Where was Mr. Ayesoro later transferred to? No, you can still go over the video again so that you see whether you are able to answer these questions. So if you are new on this platform, try and click on the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you're part of this class. And whenever any video is produced, you are going to be notified. Like this video, you are free to share it on any social media platform. Invite your friends and colleagues to join us. If you have any question, do not hesitate to ask your question through the comment section and it will be attended to. Thank you. Let's meet in the next chapter.